Gary Klein, LA Times USC writer, and I got to give Gary credit. He was there before anybody else. He said on the program a couple of months ago, Steve Sarkeesian. Steve Sarkeesian's your guy. And Gary joins us now. Was he USC's first choice, though, Gary?
You know, Dan, I think as Pat Hayden went through that process, I'm not certain that he was. I think, Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M was probably their main target of choice. I mean, I know that in the early stages they probably called everyone's agent, to see if Nick Saban was available. And maybe after the other night when the guy returned the kick, they thought he might become available. But I think Hayden's first choice was Sumlin. That was the guy. And obviously we saw what happened when he re-upped with them. And then I think it just became a process of going through their top candidates until they got to Sarkeesian.
Okay, what happened first, though? That they said no to Sumlin or Sumlin said no to USC?
Yeah, I don't know if there was ever a solid offer because my sense is that, with the way the schedule is set up and the way college football works, you can't really sit down face-to-face with a coach until that season is over. So even if there was some contact with Sumlin and that process was going, my sense is that, Hayden wants to sit down and meet with that guy. And he never got the chance, I don't think. And Texas A&M was smart and moved quickly. And, whether Sumlin ever really wanted the job, I don't know. But he was certainly in a good position to leverage that.
Okay, why Sarkeesian, and is it a good hire?
Well, like you said, I think going back to when we talked a few months ago, there's no one who knows the landscape of L.A. and knows SC better than Sarkeesian. And I think if you go back really years ago, he probably would have been the next coach after Pete Carroll. That's the scenario that they wanted to play out there. And, my understanding is they at that point, as you recall, all these schools were doing the coach in waiting thing. And they tried to do that with former athletic director Mike Garrett, and he wouldn't go for it. So when Sarkeesian turned down the job with the Oakland Raiders, he was sitting there, and then Washington came and got him. So I just think he's already plugged in to the landscape in terms of recruiting. More than half of that SC team already knows him because he recruited them, either at SC or at Washington. And I think again, his way of being out in front of a program is different than Lane Kiffin. There's a lot of criticism out there that, here we go again, another Carroll assistant. But Sarkeesian's, I think, presence is different than Lane's is, and I just think he fits. He's been there, and he knows how to get the most out of that area.
Talking to Gary Klein, LA Times USC writer, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Finish this sentence. What if Ed Orgeron beats UCLA on Saturday?
That would have been one of the best press conferences to see what Pat Hayden, would do in that situation. I just think it was the pressure was becoming enormous. The groundswell, and I know you can't act on emotion. That's not what a CEO. That's not what the head of a billion-dollar operation, or $100 million operation is supposed to do. But the emotion at SC, in the Coliseum, in that team room, if USC beats UCLA, I just couldn't imagine a scenario where Hayden could get up and name anyone else.
I know.
And if he did, what the reaction would have been.
Isn't that amazing, though? And that's why I kept saying this is a 2-month window here. Ed has done a great job. But you can't hire on emotion just because of this. But I was disappointed that Ed, got upset and then just left. I don't know what his future is, but he could have handled it in a better way, a more professional way. Even though he might be angry at Pat Hayden and USC. I understand all that. If you actually did it for the kids, then make sure that why you're leaving, they at least understand what you're doing, why you're doing it. But this just it didn't look good here. His exit strategy, not good.
Yeah, I was. I have to say, I was a little surprised. admittedly, I don't know all of the details yet behind what went on with his conversation with Pat Hayden, but I was surprised at that on a couple of reasons. As you said, I think the bond that he had with that team, I think, was real. I know coaches they're going to act the way they act no matter what, but I think he really was tied to those kids, and it just struck me that if you've had this 2-month audition for, if not the USC job, then for another job, why not extend that 15 more practices and another game and see it through? Because I just think the way that this happened maybe sends a message to athletic directors that, that's an impulsive decision. And why not see it through, take the high road, if that's what you want to call it, and finish it out and then make a clean break and go on your way. So I have to say I was a little surprised too.
Before I let you go, and I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I can't help but think this, that if Pat Hayden knows if I hire Sarkeesian, I get Jim Mora out of town because Jim Mora will take the Washington job. Is that a stretch here, Gary?
I think it probably is, but it's certainly a nice side benefit that Hayden got from it. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday. It's just amazing the way USC and UCLA battle for everything, including the spotlight, locally and nationally. Mm-hmm. No, 2 days ago, and UCLA had a great victory over USC, and less than 2 days later, all anyone's talking about is USC again, and what happened with their coaching search. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. You said the domino effect and what happens at UCLA.
Well, I know Texas wants Mora. I know he's on there on the front burner there, so he may have another opportunity instead of UW. But that was his. Everybody has a dream job. They just don't stay in those dream jobs. So I don't know why it works out that way, but I would guess Jim Mora is going to have a couple opportunities here.
And I would think UCLA really has to act quickly. They cannot let this thing, either the Washington situation or the Texas situation keep coming up. They've got to take care of that one way or the other, just to, again, offset what's happening at USC.
Great job, Gary. As always, we appreciate you joining us early. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, Gary Klein, USC football beat writer. And it was October 8th that he came on the show, and he said, Steve Sarkeesian is your guy at USC.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.